Ladies and gentlemen, jury, good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Everyone can be seated, I'm sorry. Accommodations okay? Yeah. Food okay? Yeah. Are they taking care of everything that you need? Yeah. If you have any questions, any problems, let me know, okay? When we stopped yesterday, we stopped because we were not going to be able to complete Mr. Martin's testimony, and we're going to resume with Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, since it is a different day, if you could step down from the witness stand and need to swear in today, sir. Watch your step, please, sir. Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand to be sworn, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you will give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Put your hand on Mr. Martin. Have a seat here, please, sir. Watch your step, please. I'm going to again apologize for the interruption in the middle of your direct, but you may resume, sir.
Let's remind ourselves where we were, Mr. Martin, okay? You had told us about this plan to kill Lorenzen Wright and walked us through the month of May of 2010, is that right?
Correct.
And then you walked us through the month of June 2010, the month that you and Billy went to Atlanta, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then we had started with July of 2010, and we had reviewed some Facebook messages that you and Ms. Wright shared with regard to the party and the plan to kill Lorenzen Wright.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? I want to stay in July of 2010, and I want to direct your attention to a particular day. I know it's a day that your attention has been directed to previously when you've given statements in the case, and that is July 18th, turning into July 19th of 2010. It's going to be that night that Lorenzen Wright was killed. Do you know what day I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
July 18th of 2010, 12 years ago. Do you remember where you were or what you were doing that day?
Yes, sir. I remember I was in Batesville, Mississippi at the time.
Do you remember what you were doing?
Not particularly.
Do you remember whether or not you contacted Billy Turner at all that day?
Yes, sir.
Why did you contact Billy Turner that day?
I contacted Billy Turner that day because I had got contacted earlier to be in Memphis, to come up to Memphis about Sheriff Wright.
Were you supposed to come to Memphis on the 18th?
Yes, sir. Well, there was plans to come to Memphis on the 18th.
Whose plans was it for you to come to Memphis on the 18th?
Sheriff Wright.
Do you remember when during the day you contacted Mr. Turner, or if he contacted you?
I remember it was later on in the afternoon, later on in the evening.
Were you able to speak with Mr. Turner?
No, sir.
Was Mr. Turner able to speak with you?
No, sir.
Do you remember if you called or Mr. Turner once, twice, or more than once?
I believe it was more than once, but I don't remember exactly the amount of time.
Did you use your cell phone to contact Mr. Turner?
I used a cell phone and a payphone.
Why did you use a payphone to contact Mr. Turner?
At the time, I believe my cell phone battery went dead.
On the 18th, would it be fair to say that you're contacting or attempting to contact Mr. Turner very late at night on the 18th? Midnight, in fact. Is that correct?
Correct.
Were you able to speak to Mr. Turner at all the night of the 18th, turning into the morning hours of the 19th?
No, sir.
Did you attempt to contact, or did you contact Miss Wright on the night of the 18th, turning the 19th, midnight, or anything like that?
I don't remember if I called at that time. I know it was earlier that evening.
Earlier that day? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know you're supposed to be there, and you're not. What you thinking?
I think it's just another day they're going to go by uneventful afternoon.
That would make almost attempt number 3, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, how'd that make you feel?
Elated.
Elated? Do you remember in particular what you were doing in Batesville that night?
No, sir.
Do you remember in particular who you were with, if anybody, in Batesville that night?
No, sir. Not particularly who I was with. I was probably around my family, around my brothers.
Do you remember where in Batesville you would have gone that night?
Where I would have gone, I stayed around the house or went over to my brother's house.
That night passes.
Yes, sir.
And you're happy it passes.
Yes, sir.
But do you see Billy and Cher after that?
I believe it. You're a day or two later.
A day or two later? How is it that you see them a day or two later?
Well, I get contacted by Shelby that they were going to come down. And when she comes down, I'm thinking they're coming to drop off the van to give me something, a rag. But when she comes, they come to get the, I believe to get Billy's car.
Okay, so we had talked about this earlier. You had been given Billy's car at some point, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
To use it?
Yes, sir.
Is that the car y'all took to Atlanta?
Yes, sir.
And did you still have the car after the Atlanta trip?
Yes, sir.
Did you have it the whole time, or would it be returned and given back to you?
It'd be on and off, to be returned, given back, returned, given back.
When you would give the car back, would you drive it up to Memphis? Would they come down and get it? What would happen?
It depends.
At this time, you have the car though.
Yes, sir.
And Shara and Billy come down to Batesville.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct? Do you remember what they're driving?
Van.
And they arrive in Batesville. Do you see them?
Yes, sir.
Do you talk to them?
Yes, sir.
This time, do you know whether or not anything's happened to Lorenzen Wright or not?
I don't know anything this time.
How are they acting?
A little spooked, a little shaky. Dodge a question.
What kind of questions you're asking with the dodging?
I'm just like, what's going on? What's up?
Do they stay long?
Nah, not at all.
Do they take the car back with them?
Yes, sir.
What happens next?
What happened next? I received another call for sure that they're coming down. I don't know if it was through my phone records or through my mom's or something, but Cheryl was coming down. And when she came down, it was she needed to talk to my mother about a metal detector or something.
All right. And you had said that Shara and Billy came down to get the car a day or two after the night of the 18th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long after the night of the 18th would this have been, approximately?
It's probably the following day or
So now we're maybe 3 or 4 days after the night of the 18th.
somewhere around.
And your understanding was that Sharon needed to come down for what?
She was actually talking to my mom's about a metal detector. She came down.
She needed to get a metal detector?
Yeah.
Did your mom have one?
Yes, sir.
Does Sharon come down?
She comes down. She pulls up to the house. I'm already there, so it's like we're communicating that way. That's when she's like, "You'll come with me."
She said that you were going to come with her? And Did she get the metal detector?
Yes, sir.
Or did you get the metal detector?
I mean, I don't know how she got it, but she ended up with it.
Did you know at that time, that morning when she came down, why she needed the metal detector?
No, sir.
Did you know that morning when you got in the car with her, she said, you need to come with her? Did you know what that was about?
No, sir.
Did you get in the car with her?
Yes, sir.
She by herself?
I believe so. But I can't remember by ourselves or with someone else.
What'd y'all do?
We headed to Memphis.
Did y'all talk on the way to Memphis?
Yeah, on the way to Memphis, we talked.
What did y'all talk about on the way to Memphis?
About she needed to find a gun.
She needed to find a gun?
Yes, sir.
What is she talking about?
She said that she needed to find a gun. She said, you know, did the plan went through? Did everything went through that night?
We need to talk about it.
Okay. She said the plan, the murder of Lorenzen had went through.
The murder of Lorenzen had happened?
They had.
And where was she when she told you this?
We were in the van.
And what was your reaction?
Disbelief.
And she needed to find a gun?
She said that she had lost one of the guns.
She had lost one of the guns.
Yes, sir.
And that was what the metal detector was for.
Yes, sir.
And what'd you say to all this?
I didn't have too many words to say.
Where'd y'all
So it
go?
was just time to leave. Where we go, we met up, somehow we met up, and I really don't know where we went to, where the place was at, but we ended up meeting up with Billy.
In Memphis or Batesville?
I remember.
Excuse me?
I said I don't really remember where we met him at.
You don't remember where you met Billy at that day? Or was it Sheriff picked you up, got the metal detector, and did y'all drive first?
Yeah, we drove.
And then at some point met Billy.
With Billy.
You know why y'all met Billy?
I believe he was waiting. He was just waiting on Sheriff.
Waiting on the sheriff? And where'd y'all go once y'all met up?
Once everybody met up, we went to the like an empty area in East Memphis.
When we say an empty area, what do you mean by that?
I mean, it's more rural. It's between like the suburbs, and between the two suburbs.
Rural, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Like trees and stuff?
Yes, sir.
Fields and stuff?
Yes, sir.
When y'all went to this rural area, tell me how y'all, not all directions, but did y'all drive there or walk there?
We drove.
All in the same car, or different cars?
Same car.
Is there any discussion in the car on the way to this rural area?
Not really.
At this point, she's told you about the plan going through, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Has Billy said anything to you or while you're there about the plan or anything?
No, sir.
Once y'all get to this rural area, what do y'all do?
We get to an area where there's a field. You can see a field in the distance. And there's a fence that's going across like a barbed wire fence.
Barbed wire fence, okay.
And at that moment, that's when I believe it was Billy. He presented some wire cutters.
Do you know where he got the wire cutters from? Do you remember whether or not you had seen him with the wire cutters before?
I remember seeing him pick him up at the place where we picked him up at. I don't remember where it's exactly where it's at.
The place y'all picked him up at, the place you met with, is it a house or a business or what?
I think it was a trailer.
Trailer? Do you know whose trailer it was?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we got you and Shara and Billy in this rural area, barbed wire fence, field on the other side, and Mr. Turner with like wire cutters.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what the wire cutters look like? Okay. What happens now?
We go, well, Sheriff is basically explaining to like, yeah, we jump the fence, we don't want to leave anything behind, so we're gonna cut the fence.
Right. When you say sheriff is explaining, he says he jumped the fence. Who is she talking about?
Lorenzen.
Lorenzen? She's talking about the night of the murder.
Night of the murder, correct.
Did she tell you where she was at the time of the murder?
She said she was in the field.
Did she tell you where Billy was at the time of the murder?
Yes, sir.
Where's that?
Same place she was.
Did she tell you what happened at the time of the murder?
What do you mean?
How it went down?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what she said.
She said that she told Lorenzen that she was going to meet somebody for some money. That's when she met up with Billy, I guess on this abandoned rural road.
Did she tell you whether or not she took Lorenzen with her to meet somebody about some money?
Yes, sir.
Did she?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, so her and Lorenzen met up with Billy on this road. That's when I guess they ambushed him
You say you guess. Why do you say you guess?
because I wasn't there.
Did she tell you what happened once they met up with them, other than Lorenzen jumping over the fence?
When she met up with him, she said, she said a lot of things, but just in memory is that Lorenzen had his back to him. They started chasing him. They started firing at him, chasing him. He jumped through the fence. He was jumping like a deer. They caught him when he fell.
Did she say whether or not she had a gun?
Yes, sir.
Did she say whether or not Billy had a gun?
Yes, sir. She said both of them had guns.
Did she say whether or not both of them fired?
She said both of them fired.
And here you are, standing on the same street next to the barbed wire fence, 3 or 4 days after the homicide with that.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about that?
Terrible.
How would you feel about it at the time, though?
Terrible.
When you're standing there where this thing happened 3 or 4 days later with them, do you have a gun with you at that time?
Yes, sir.
You ever scared what's going to happen to you?
This is every day. Think about that part.
So they didn't need to bring you there, did they?
No.
I mean, they needed a metal detector,
Yeah.
but you weren't.
I wasn't part of the deal with the metal detector.
All right. Side of the road, you've heard what's happened from her, right?
Yes, sir.
Has Billy at this point told you what happened?
No, sir.
What do y'all do?
They proceeded to cut the. Well, I don't know who cut what or who did what, who helped with the barbed wire, but we cut the fence.
Y'all cut the fence?
Cut the fence, wrapped it up,
How'd you wrap it up, or how'd y'all wrap it up?
and just in some rags.
How much of the fence?
I wouldn't say about probably 6 to 8 feet.
Okay. About 8 feet, 8 feet of the fence cut out,
Yes, sir.
wrapped in some rags.
Yes, sir.
What do y'all do next?
We can proceed to a dump and get rid of everything.
You say you get rid of everything. What are you talking about?
Both colors of rags in the fence.
Hole cutters, rags, and the fence? All three of y'all?
Yes, sir.
Have we used the metal detector at all yet?
We used it on the way out before we got to the dump. We went to the corner. I don't know the 2 roads or wherever it's at. at the corner, and they was searching in the ditch.
Did you go a little bit further away from where the barbed wire fence was cut out?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Searching the whole area.
Who used the metal detector?
Me and Sheriff.
What was Billy doing while y'all were metal detecting?
I do not know.
Was he still there though?
Yes, he was still there.
How long y'all think you, if you remember, how long y'all think y'all searched for?
Probably 30 minutes.
And went to a dump, is that what you said, or a dumpster?
Yeah, we went to I don't know. It's like a dump with dumpsters, and it was just a dumping area.
You said you threw away the towels with the barbed wire fence and the bolt cutters, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember who threw those away? Physically, like who? Did somebody get out of the car?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember who it was?
Billy.
Where do y'all go from there?
From there, it was part ways.
All right, by part ways.
Sheriff leaves. I don't know where she goes. She leaves. Me and Billy go a separate way.
You go with Billy.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what vehicle?
What vehicle me and we left the dumping?
What
Or when we
vehicle?
split up.
When you part ways?
All part ways. Me and Billy went in the car, and Sheriff went in the van.
You still got your gun on you?
Yes, sir.
Are you nervous?
Yes, sir.
It's pretty clear what you were part of at that point.
Yes, sir.
What happens?
Me and Billy, I don't really remember what we did, but I know I ended up getting took back to Mississippi.
Back to Mississippi?
Yes, sir.
And this is, like we've said, 3 or 4 days after the night of the 18th. Make it back to Mississippi. You know what's happened at this point.
Yes, sir.
You don't call the police, do you?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because I'm already in legal trouble at the time.
This gets you in more trouble.
Yes, sir.
A lot more trouble.
A lot more trouble.
Does there come a day that you do something else with Billy with regard to some evidence?
Regards to what?
With regard to some evidence having to do with this case?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that day.
That day later on, I don't know how many days later, or what time of day it was, but I remember that Billy came and got me to get rid of some of the guns. Get rid of the gun.
And like you said, you don't remember what day it was. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You know it was after barbed wire fence day, though.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Billy comes to get you to get rid of some of the guns.
Yes, sir.
Now, does he need you to do that?
No, sir.
Do you have any of the guns at that point?
No, sir.
Do you still have his car at that point?
No, sir.
Well, how does that make you feel that Billy's getting you to get some guns and he doesn't even need you?
That was just, I didn't understand it at all. Like, I feel like it was a setup.
Setup.
Yes, sir.
So did you have your gun on you?
Yes, sir.
Did you go with him?
I went with him.
Do you remember where you went?
I remember we went to the same trailer area.
Same trailer area that you had been to however many days before with Billy, wire cutters.
Yes, sir.
What happened at the trailer area?
Billy came out with a pistol. And
Yes, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Billy came out with a pistol, then we proceeded to get on the road looking for an area to get rid of the pistol.
All right. Billy comes out of the trailer with a pistol, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember how he's carrying it?
It was wrapped up.
Wrapped up? What do you mean by wrapped up?
Wrapped up with rags.
He gets in the car.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember who's driving?
Billy's driving his time.
Who's driving?
Yes, sir.
Do you know where he puts the gun when he gets into the car?
Trump.
You're sitting in the passenger seat.
Yes, sir.
You still got your gun with you?
Yes, sir.
Is this a fun little ride?
No, sir.
Do you know where y'all are going?
Not at that moment. He had no plans.
Do y'all talk to each other about where y'all are going?
No, sir.
But does he drive?
Yes, sir.
Do y'all end up on a highway?
Yes, sir.
And are these roads and stuff things that you're familiar with?
No. I mean, well, I'm familiar with the area.
A few years after this happened, in 2012, detectives asked you to try to draw a little map or something as to where y'all ended up. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And did you try to draw him a little map?
Yes, sir.
Is that where y'all tried to do that, you and the detectives?
I believe so.
Introduce that to other space next members.
Mr. Harris, come see this item or any objections?
Yeah, safety out.
Yes, sir. Any objections? No objections. This would be exhibit number 7575. Diagram testified by Mr. Martin that he prepared or assisted in preparing, it's dated May 30, 2012, exhibit 75. Sir, you may proceed. Yes, sir.
After given the time this little map was made, 2012, after talking to the detectives and drawing them a crude map, you were able to lead them to a little lake, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is it a lake that you'd been to before?
No, sir.
Do you remember anything that was around the lake?
It was a rural area, trees, ranch houses.
Do you remember how it is you two found the lake?
I mean, we was just driving and trying to get farther from Memphis we can go on a certain road. And I just naturally spotted the way the way the trees were around the water, and knew it was a lake.
You saw the lake. Did y'all stop at the lake?
Yes, sir.
What happened once y'all stopped at the lake?
When we got to the lake, we checked out the scene to see how to get to the lake first off, because it's a little access road.
It's not right off the
Yeah,
highway.
it's not any signs or anything to get to it, so we had to make a circle around and came back to the lake. Once we got there, we proceeded to get rid of the pistol.
Tell me how that happened. Tell me who did what.
Billy got the pistol out the trunk, filed off the serial on it, and threw it into the lake.
And where were you when this was happening?
I was right there beside him.
Did he walk? How far? I don't care about distance. Y'all parked, presumably, correct?
Yes, sir.
And from where y'all parked, you'll have to walk to the lake.
Yes, sir.
And did Billy walk to the lake before he threw the gun in?
Yes, sir.
Did you walk with him?
Not to throw the gun into the lake, but we was at the car. When he had to walk to the lake, it's a straight shot.
And in fact, later, you lead detectives to that area that he walked, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, Billy walks to the lake. Are you actually able to see the gun flying through the air and hitting the water?
Yes, sir.
What all does he throw into the lake?
At that time, he threw. I remember it was a shotgun or shotgun shells also in the car. He threw the pistol away and he went down a couple ways and threw the shotgun.
Threw the pistol from where you saw him,
Yes, sir.
and then there was a shotgun too.
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not the shotgun had anything to do with this crime?
I don't even know where it came from.
Did you come back to the car afterwards?
Yes, sir.
Now, he didn't need you for any of that.
No, sir.
Still nervous?
Yes, sir.
I know you've heard from Shelby Wright as to what happened, but at this point, had you heard from Billy himself as to what happened?
The only thing I heard from Billy was that he was still shaking from shooting ring.
Did he say that?
Yes, sir.
That he was still shaking from shooting around?
Correct.
Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Did he describe any more details that you remember about shooting around?
No, sir. Most of the details came from Sheriff, but Billy was present at the time.
When Sherry told you the details about what happened previously, Lorenzen riding like a deer, jumping the fence, those things, Billy was there for all that.
Yes, sir.
But from Billy's own mouth, the only thing you heard was he was still shaking from shooting around.
Correct.
Guns in the water. Billy's back to the car. What do y'all do?
We headed back to Memphis.
Do you remember where y'all went?
No, sir.
At some point, y'all part company, you and Billy?
Yes, sir.
Probably feeling pretty good about parting company.
Yes, sir. At this time, I'm relieved. At least I'm with it. At this time, I think part of ways, and I was with Sheriff at this time.
How'd that happen, do you know?
I believe I was dropped off at her house.
You were dropped off by Billy at Sheriff's house?
Yes, sir.
Do you know, at this time, as you mentioned earlier about dropping a gun, or not you dropping a gun, but Sheriff dropping a gun, or needing to find a gun.
Yes, sir.
Do you know at this point whether or not the gun's still missing or not?
At that time, when it was still missing because we only had one gun.
Because you only had one gun to throw away.
Yes, sir.
Makes sense. Where'd y'all go next? Or not go next? What happened next?
And the next once I got home, a few days later, I believe Sheriff told me that she found the other gun.
And did y'all have, so we've seen some messages, did y'all have some sort of family reunion around this time?
Yes, sir.
Did you go to this family reunion?
Yes, sir.
Did Sheriff go to this family reunion?
Yes, sir.
Do y'all talk to each other at the family reunion?
Yes, sir.
Did y'all talk about any of this?
No, sir.
tell the police any of this?
No, sir.
It's a secret.
Yes, sir.
That could get you in trouble.
You can get me in trouble or get me killed.
Now, after that, 2010, Sheriff Wright ever say anything else more to you about this crime?
After 2010,
After family reunion, after it's over?
not really.
Is this something that y'all ever went around talking about?
No, sir.
You and Billy, after all this, after it's over, after the family reunion, is this something that you went around talking with Billy about?
No, sir.
Did you see Billy much after this?
No, sir.
Do you think you saw him at all?
I didn't see him at all.
Now, we had mentioned that you had your own legal problems, your own court case going on at the same time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the legal reasons we're not going to talk about what and details, okay? But in 2012, something happened in your case. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in fact, there was a conviction in your case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And after that conviction, did you come forward?
After conviction, yes, sir.
And why did you come forward?
Because now they can't. I can't be touched on by Billy. Then.
You're in jail after the conviction, right?
I'm more safe in jail than come forward.
You come forward and you talk to detectives. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You tell them to drive through all this map, this little lake near Walden. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You tell them that the conspiracy to kill Lorenzen Wright involves Sheriff Wright, Billy Turner, and you. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? You tell them that there's a pregnant female and you don't even know her name.
Yes, sir.
You tell them about the barbed wire fence
Yes, sir.
and what you told us today.
Correct.
They show you a photo spread too, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Ask you if you recognize who this person is that says Billy Turner. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What's that? Did
It's a photo spread.
you recognize somebody in the photo spread?
Yes, sir.
Did you pick him out?
Yes, sir.
Is that Billy Turner?
Yes, sir.
Turner had that 6 next number to you.
This Thomas was carried in Jackson to the zone. Yeah. For the record, this is exhibit number 7676. It's a Memphis Police Department photo lineup, identified by Mr. Martin as a photo spread in which he identified the defendant Billy Martin. Exhibit number 76, Memphis Police Department photo lineup.
With Billy Turner.
I'm sorry, identified the defendant Billy Turner. I apologize. Ms. Hagerman, you may proceed.
Is this the same Billy Turner you've been talking about for these last 2 days?
Yes, sir.
The same Billy Turner that's in this courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
That was in this courtroom yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Can you see him?
Yes, sir.
Can you point him out and tell me where he's seated, please?
You seated on the left side of the room from me.
Can you tell me what he's wearing?
A dark suit.
And the record reflects he's identified the defendant, Mr. Turner.
The record will reflect Mr. Jimmie Martin, as pointed to, has described it and has identified the defendant, Mr. Billy Turner, in this case. You may proceed, Mr. Hagerman.
I have no further questions.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, before Mr. Perry starts his cross-examinations, anyone need a break? Ms. Perry, you may proceed. Yes, sir.
How many times were you interviewed prior to last week?
Numerous.
When you say numerous, I mean more precise number. Was it once or twice or 3 times?
I can't tell you a specific number.
Okay. But you know that you did give at least 3 statements to law enforcement, right?
Yes, sir.
And last week you got a chance to meet with Mr. Hagerman also, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you gave a 4th statement, right?
Yes, sir.
And then yesterday you testified for a while, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this morning you finished that testimony, right?
Yes, sir.
And you realized that this morning and yesterday you were under oath.
Yes, sir.
You also remember some of the parties that might be present during the prior interviews back in 2012. Was that with law enforcement that you were talking?
Yes, sir.
You remember where that was that you were talking?
Specifically where I was at?
Yes, sir.
201.
And that would have been approximately 3 weeks after you were convicted, correct? Did you talk to law enforcement during the month of May in 2012?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when you gave this? What's that document? You can look at the top of it.
Photographic display.
That was the photo lineup. Do you
Yes,
see
sir.
the date on that at the bottom of it where you
Yes, sir.
signed? What date is on there?
May 30th, 2012.
What document is that?
It says stipulation of facts.
You see the top of it? I might have given you the wrong document. I don't see the agreement. That agreement should be in this file. I might have. I apologize. Thank you.
Memorandum of understanding.
And was that the document you were shown yesterday?
Yes, sir.
And that was the memorandum between you and the state of Tennessee, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you signed that contract, what date's on the bottom of that contract?
May 30th, 2012.
All right, and so if you were convicted on May 4th, 2012,
Yes, sir.
it's a few weeks later,
Yes,
right? During the same month, in other words.
Yes, sir.
And you signed that agreement and you talked with some detectives, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you talk to them over a 2-day period?
Probably more than that. Yes, sir.
All right. And now, outside of talking with them, you talked to people on the street as well, right? While your case was ongoing.
No, sir.
You never talked about any of this to anybody.
About what?
what we're in here now about no, not signing the contract and talking with the police about what happened that night.
No, sir.
When you were talking with the police, do you remember approximately how many detectives would have been in the room?
About 3.
Okay. Who are Tutu and Nikki? Who are they?
Tutu and Nikki.
Yes, sir. Who are they? They're names.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember those names?
Yeah, I know Nikki.
Who is Nikki?
Tutu and Nikki is Tutu's sister, baby mom.
And did you have their vehicles at the night that we're talking about? The night Lorenzen got killed?
Yes, sir.
You had
I
their
may have
truck?
been with them, yes, sir.
All right, you're saying that you had their truck on that night?
I may have been with them, yes, sir.
All right. And you also talked on that night with other people, right? During that evening. Did you talk to anybody else? Were you hanging out with anybody else the night that
Yes, sir.
Lorenzen
Yes,
got
sir.
killed? Do you know if any of those people have ever come forward on your behalf?
I'm
Before,
object to this speculation.
It's
It's
not
outside
state-
his area of knowledge.
Young, I can ask you if he knows.
Well, then what's
If
the
he-
relevance, Your Honor?
Ms. Perry, you may ask that question, but he can't tell you what somebody else may have done.
Yes, sir.
You may ask him if he has personal knowledge of it, but he can't really tell what somebody else may have done.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have personal
No, sir.
knowledge of anybody that has corroborated where you were that night?
No, sir.
And you've told the police at different points that you were at home that night, right?
At
Yes
home?
or no?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, your mother, along with you, helped to locate the names of certain people, right? Particularly the pregnant lady that you couldn't describe by name.
Yes, sir.
But she didn't corroborate the fact that you were at home that night, right?
Again, we're getting to other people's testimony.
Yes.
Ms. Perry, again, I'm
Yes, sir.
saying objection as to what somebody else may have done. He can't testify to what somebody else may have done or did not do. You may proceed.
You said that night that you had Billy Turner's car, correct?
Yes, sir.
Today you're saying that. Do you remember giving a statement in 2017?
Yes, sir.
All right. And in 2017, prior to talking with the prosecutors, you didn't say that, did you?
No, sir. I don't even know what you're referring to.
You don't. You don't remember telling detectives that Billy told you and Sheriff told you that the plan was they would not, that Lorenzen wouldn't know Billy's car, and that Billy was on the scene that night in his car. You don't remember saying that?
No, sir. I don't remember saying.
You don't remember that? You don't remember talking with the detectives about that night and indicating that you had gone to a telephone, a
Yes, sir.
payphone, and making a call?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember not being able to describe how you got to the payphone?
Yes, sir.
And you said that you just don't remember how you got there. Remember
Yes,
that?
sir.
You remember that on yesterday, when you were describing going to Atlanta, you didn't say a word about Alabama, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't say that Billy got you to go to Atlanta telling you that y'all were going to cut some yards in Alabama yesterday, did you?
No, sir.
But you told detectives that before, right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't yesterday talk about driving for 18 hours and for driving 6 hours and waiting another 6 hours and then returning another 6 hours and not eating anything. Do you remember that on yesterday?
No, sir.
But you told the detectives that. As a matter of fact, they asked you about it repeatedly, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said you couldn't explain how that happened, right?
I don't remember if I said that or not. Yes, sir.
Remember, the detectives also asked you, well, what was the conversation between you and Billy on this drive to Atlanta?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't describe if Billy told you anything about himself, his family, any kind of sports, no topic whatsoever could you describe, right?
No, sir.
In fact, detectives said, you don't know anything, y'all didn't talk about anything. Remember that? Being confronted with that question.
Yes, sir.
And that your answer was, I don't remember anything about our conversation. I don't remember us having much conversation.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to Atlanta, stopping in Atlanta,
Yes, sir.
and coming back from Atlanta,
Yes, sir.
right? And while you were there on this 18-hour turnaround, the detective confronted you about the fact that you said you went to IHOP beforehand, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said you waited in IHOP for 6 hours, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you said you went to Lorenzen's house at midnight, around basically virtually, right?
Yes, sir.
And you then said you came back after seeing that he wasn't where he was supposed to be,
Yes, sir.
according to you. You remember how you described when you went in there at that time on that day, you said you didn't have a gun. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And you also said that you didn't really go in, that it was just Billy that went in. You remember that?
No, sir.
You don't remember saying you stopped at the window, you didn't go into the interior of the apartment and walk around? You don't remember that?
No, sir.
And do you remember when they asked if you went into the apartment or if Billy went in, what did Billy see? And your response was, Billy came back to you and told you that there was somebody that was bald-headed on the couch.
Yes, sir.
Remember that? But yesterday you said both of you drew firearms, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said that y'all both walked in with drawn firearms and looked at somebody,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Now, out of the 3 prior statements, you never said that, correct? I need an answer. You didn't say that in any of the 3.
Yes, sir.
And likewise, from the 3 prior statements, you never went into the fact that you had sold the guns and you purchased the 9mm, right?
Yes, sir.
And you never talked about the fact that when you had these guns, that you sold them. In fact, you said that you held them and you were like, I don't know what to do with these. And you said previously that you gave them back at some point.
Yes, sir. I did.
But yesterday you said you sold them and got a 9mm, right?
Yes, sir.
And then this morning, after yesterday, you never indicated that you gave a 9mm to anybody else in your testimony. You never said, I bought the 9mm and I gave it to somebody.
Yes, sir.
You said you bought the 9mm and you kept it, right?
Yes, sir.
You described the first meeting yesterday. And in that first meeting, your description was that Shara had come to you about some Rottweilers, right?
Yes, sir.
But when you previously talked to the detectives, only thing you said about a dog was that previously when she had come down, she wanted me to watch dogs about a year earlier. But you didn't say anything about keeping Lorenzen's dogs or anything like that during either of the 3 previous interviews, right?
Again, Your Honor, I think he needs to be, was he asked about, did they ask you about training the Rottweilers? And the answer to that question is no, they didn't. So, I mean, I don't understand this to be impeachment. I think this is Mr. Perry reading.
May we approach him?
Yes, sir. the record, the jury's out. And actually got a question from the jury that says bathroom break, which I had not looked at, which they told me that before you started your cross-examination. I am not, I'm going to say this emphatically, and I'm going to say it one time, just once. I'm not going to get into an exchange with lawyers about how you conduct your business in court. You have an absolute right to zealously represent your client, but the rules of procedure and rules of evidence are designed for both lawyers. They're applied equally by this court to both lawyers. Conversation we had at the bench was very routine to start to indicate that you're questioning the integrity of this court. Will not stand for it. Will not go on the record because the press is here, so what you said and what insinuations you were making. But they're offensive. They're unnecessary. When I rule on something, I ruled. If you disagree with my rulings, Mr. Superior, the state of Tennessee, that's what the Court of Criminal Appeals is for. That's what the Tennessee Supreme Court is for. But I would not have lawyers being disrespectful to this court in front of a jury. And what you did was disrespectful. I could have told you that with the jury in the box, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to put on the record what you said because you know what you said. But I would not argue with you. I would not allow you to be discourteous to this court when I ruled. I have ruled. And lawyers must move on because I would not argue with you in front of this jury. I would not allow you to be discourteous in front of this jury. If you disagree with the court's ruling, it has been preserved. But I would not allow you to attack the integrity of this court. I would suggest that you take a moment, take a deep breath, recenter yourself, because if I have this conversation with you again, it will in fact be in front of this jury. And I don't want to do that. You can call the court into recess. Everyone can remain seated. Clear the courtroom.
Court stands in recess.